Stocktwits Nation. It is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. That's right, a whole new month. Shy, what's up? Give us some weekend highlights. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, it's first my B-Day month, B-Day month. So it begins. With the fiance booked a private tour for me at Intuitive Dome, so that was fun to see.
Oh
My
my
Clippers
god.
stadium,
Did you get to go
definitely
in the
cool.
locker room?
I did. It was really cool. It's kind of ridiculous what their setup is like. I was able to go on the court too. Uh,
Cool.
the person who showed us around, though, I did had to correct her a bit on some of the misfacts she was saying about the Clippers, and my fiance hated that.
What
But
was she saying? Like wrong stats or just
yeah, wrong
like,
stats. Like when they
oh man.
rebranded, like stuff about their playoff history, and like it was just I'm a big NBA fan, so I felt like a
Yeah.
douche, but had to be done.
Well, I mean, if you have that job, you kind of have to know your stuff because people who are touring the Intuit Dome are big Clippers fans. Like,
Yeah,
you can't just like it's not like an art museum with like random
totally,
5-year-olds following you around being
totally.
like, yeah, sure, Rembrandt. Like, this is
Mhm.
like, yeah, my Knicks are done. So you guys don't have to hear me yap about that anymore. That was devastating. Tyrese Halliburton is on my list. I have no interest in like I'll watch the finals because it's something to do, but I'm like, I feel like who cares? Like, Shy, are you excited about the finals?
uh, I am as an NBA fan, but if I
Okay.
wasn't, then I wouldn't because SGNA and Halliburton, like Hallie, that's a really interesting pairing for me, and I do love that they're whoever wins the championship will be the first in ever. Is it actually would be the first time
Yes,
ever
I
either
think you're
team
right.
wins?
I do like that angle.
That is a fun angle. The issue is, I think the only people who would watch it will be people who go to Applebee's, Chili's, etc. It's very middle America, Oklahoma City and Indiana. So
We gotta give
numbers will
them
be
that.
light. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to people from Indiana, Oklahoma City. I think it's fun that like one of these will get it for the first time. I'm with you. Uh I need to find a new sport to be obsessed with. Like I'm a Yankee fan, but it's a long season. The professional lacrosse league just started. So if I got any lax bros in the audience, there's a team called the Water Dogs. And I decided last year I was going all in on the Water Dogs. So I'm a Water Dog stan now. I won't talk about it on the show because you know I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But uh, great season by the Knicks, though. Good job, good effort. Get them next time. Probably not, but that's okay. We endure. But we are coming off a red hot May on Wall Street. The S&P 500 climbed 6.2% last month, the best May since 1990. At which point, the number one song in the country was Vogue by Madonna, and at number 2, Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. What a great run that must have been. Stocks were ripping. You had Sinead O'Connor. Last month, back to 2025, the tech-heavy Nasdaq had an even bigger month, up nearly 10%. The Dow gained 3.9%. June, though, is already starting to be a little more cautious. So we got some trade tensions kicking back up with China. Beijing now accusing Washington of violating a trade truce. Like he said, she said, still fighting. Asian markets were sent lower overnight on that news. US futures also down a bit. Oil prices jumping 3%, even with OPEC Plus planning to ramp up. Lots of geopolitical things going on. And we got some stuff happening this week. So we got the May jobs report coming on Friday. Powell speaking today, fresh off a meeting with Trump. Should be interesting. And we got some earnings. Shy, I know you've been pretty complimentary about Powell in the past. Powell usually keeps it pretty classy in these. He doesn't really talk about politics or his personal opinions. But what do you think this? What do you think this speech is today? Because it's very vague.
It's vague, but it's also really important to know it's scheduled. So I think there's a lot of rumor mill over the weekend that is Powell going to resign today? Is this an ad hoc announcement? It's not. It's scheduled. I don't think he's going to resign. If you look at the betting markets, like there was no uptick. I know it's again crazy that the new modern investing we're using predictive markets as a sanity check, but that's kind of where it's going to have an implementation in any decision making now going forward. So poly market's going to be where a lot of eyeballs go on like, is this real or is this FUD type of thing?
Hmm.
But so yes, I don't think there's gonna be any announcement for resigning. I think it's gonna be a nothing burger. I think it's gonna be data dependency. I think right now the market is predicting first rate cuts in Q4 of this year. I disagree. I think there should be a rate cut sooner. However, they've always not they Powell has always sided on not lagging but safety net on any kind of major pivots or decision making, and he's gonna need more data or more time to figure out what the U.S. China tariff war is gonna result in, and nothing's gonna be it's not gonna be shocking this week. Nothing's
Yeah.
gonna happen really.
So you're saying this was a plan? You were reading that this was a planned thing. It wasn't just like he threw it on the calendar after getting out of a meeting with Trump.
Yeah, it was scheduled, is what I
Okay.
read. So it's preview scheduled, and I just don't expect any kind of major announcement or any dovish sentiments. However, who knows? We'll see if the bond market prices anything that I am not seeing, because like that's where my eyes are gonna go.
Hmm.
Bond market does not BS. Bond market is literally very much factual. It's hard to manipulate. It's hard to BS. So like, if that's telling me a sign before he speaks, I might be wrong, but as of right now, it's not.
Yeah. Well, this was a closed door meeting they had because, that always goes well. And Trump reportedly pushed for immediate rate cuts. So he's kind of with you, Shai. He's like, let's get this going. But Powell was apparently sticking to the we follow the data stance. I do think when you take that much of a hard line on any issue, the psychology of not wanting to uh, retract or go back from your stance is also a factor, even if Powell's waiting for the data, but there's gotta be some part of him psychologically that, like, doesn't want him to give in. But it will be interesting. We
Well,
also had some, comments from Governor Christopher Waller. Yesterday, he gave a speech in South Korea, talked about the ripple effect of tariffs. And so lots coming out of the Fed this week. But you think Shy just gonna be a lot of these speeches, right? It's all hyped up, and then he says the same thing he's been saying.
I mean, yeah, it's hyped up and then ends up being nothing. I will say that the irony in this is if there wasn't a tariff war, I think we'd be cutting rates this summer. So I
Yeah.
think that like Trump wants rates being cut, but if there wasn't tariffs, I think they would do it already. That's like the weird irony behind it. Because like you saw the PCE numbers, like they're pretty. The numbers, the data has been pretty positive. By positive, I mean like backing a rate cuts the past couple weeks. So like it feels like if we let this prolong, something structurally might break. And the irony is that if there's no tariffs, like we get a rate cut. But yeah, Powell, I think Powell. First off, also Trump saying that he wants rate cuts, like it's such an easy win for him politically.
Yeah.
On sentiment, like everyone wants rate cuts. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you are. So like, him just saying it, it's an easy sentiment win for him, knowing that like the Feds are gonna do what they do, so it doesn't matter what I say. I'm just gonna do whatever is
Right.
popular. And I guarantee nothing substantial was being discussed behind the closed doors. It was just after again watching Veep. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if Trump was just at his desk and Powell was just on the couch. All right, well, I'll just wait here 10 more minutes before I have to leave or
Oh, yeah.
something, so people would think we talked about something.
Totally. Yeah, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall. Let's get to earnings because we got some biggies coming up this week. Primarily CrowdStrike, which I know you've been following pretty closely. They're reporting tomorrow after the market close. CrowdStrike is, of course, the cybersecurity company. They protect businesses from ransom and hackers, and uh, they have their platform Falcon. They're up 36% year to date and 48% in the past 12 months. Shy, what you're an investor in these guys. What are some of the key metrics you're looking at? What do you expect will happen when they report tomorrow afternoon?
So I think it's really important to adjust expectations when it comes to CrowdStrike, because you look at their price, like their stock price. First off, all-time highs, incredible. After the outage was not even a year ago. Think about this, not even a year ago. It was July 19th. It was we're just getting in June, so this is 10 months ago essentially. It just dipped. What was it? It went from 400 all the way down 50% in a matter of 2 months. First off, this was my number one holding pre-outage. I
Wow.
felt the pain in my stomach during this event, but I didn't falter. A lot of people, there's FUDs being spread left and right of them going to zero. People like
Damn.
actual furus, like gurus on FinTwit, were saying this is going to go bankrupt. They're going to have so many losses through the roof, so many people with like thousands of followers. Like
Oh
at
no.
that time, people with followers more than me. I was like, wow, you are a schmuck. I'm taking receipts. Anything you say going forward, you're fronting. You're faking till you make it. You don't know what you're talking about. Type of people. And so I got petty. I kept receipts and I literally unfollowed them. Never gonna listen to their input again because they don't know what they're talking about. They're
Oh
talking out their
man.
ass. Either way, you see their stock price. I digressed a bit
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
it's good.
They went from 200 to $500 essentially in a matter of less than a year. Huge bounce. It's really important to know though, their multiple expanded than it was pre-outage because although the stock price recovered, the outage is still hitting them fundamentally big time, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Why is that? It's not because they're losing customers. The way they had a 97% churn post outage, nuts. When you stop the world for a couple hours, you anticipate. I don't trust you because your whole job is securing our enterprise, and you just messed up on an admin related error and you shut the world down. I'm going elsewhere. They had a 3% of their customers left. That's it. And I
Wow.
think the reason for that though is they had to offer a lot of credits, and those credits are not just one times; they're prolonged over 12 to 18 months. So even though you're seeing like their stock price get above the pre-outage level, their growth rates or fundamentals are still getting hit hard. I mean, pre-outage, they're supposed to be growing 29%. This year, they were supposed to be growing 25 to 26%. Now it's 21%. The outage
Mm.
is still having a substantial impact. Next year is supposed to be 22%, and then starts revamping upwards on reacceleration towards 30% again. Probably 26, 27, then ramps up to 30%. So I think that people see the stock price V shaping, thinking everything's fine, but no, it's a probably no, I think 2-year process to get out of this outage headwind. And we're still right in the heart of that 2-year turnaround process because it just happened a year ago. So I don't think they're going to reaccelerate. I don't think they're gonna have any kind of massive margin expansion opportunity, even though they cut 5% of their workforce. That's going to be an easy win for margin expansion, but I just don't think there's going to be any fireworks. And the stock is trading 100 times free cash flow multiple this upcoming year, with it, the outage being an anchor to any kind of upward surprise. I think the stock is setting up for probably a 5 to 8% pullback, but it's going to be
Mm.
minimal because that was a gut check to the world when they effed up that bad and people didn't leave and they actually still grow top line 20% with, was it right now? 20%. They still qualify for the Rule 40 score with a score of 45 when they effed up that bad. That's a moat. You have a moat. So they proved it to the world that they have a moat. And also, I think a lot of people were surprised that a company less than $100 billion can stop Earth from
Yeah.
working. Earth. So it brought, maybe it was free marketing on their end that who's CrowdStrike at? We
Yeah, it's
should
a
monitor them. But
guerrilla marketing stunt, maybe. I mean, so a couple follow-up questions. One, when that happened, did you hold or did you also buy the dip?
I didn't buy the dip because it was a 15% position for me. Again,
Okay.
painful when I lost 7% of my portfolio's value in
Yikes.
2 months. I actually did trim 25% right when it happened because like this is gonna be a nightmare for the next couple months. So I just trimmed right away.
Mhm.
25. I had 125 shares. I trimmed it 100. I have OCD. I love round numbers. My portfolio. I was like, all right, I think that deleverages me a bit. Still top three position, but won't be 15%. However, I didn't sell after. I was fighting for it publicly. Like I went on interviews, streams. Like I was telling people, like, guys, in the contracts, they're not liable for more than this amount. And everyone who says otherwise is just talking out of their ass. They're gonna be just fine. It's gonna be in the millions, not billions, that they're gonna have to pay out. Essentially, that's what it is. So I think that people were saying Sentinel One, for example, ticker S is was going to eat their lunch because they were
Yeah.
always the up and coming AI machine learning angle of endpoint security, and they were just newer, but they always had a CrowdStrike problem on like they're really it's a really good business. It really is. But they're like, all right, well, you had a smaller scale, but why aren't you growing as much as CrowdStrike when
Mm,
CrowdStrike has 3 times your margins? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm going for CrowdStrike. So everyone thought the business was going to go towards Sentinel One, and Sentinel One was a $2 billion company at the time, or 3 billion. No, 5 billion. I missed my bad.
mm.
$5 billion. So that didn't happen. And guess what? Sentinel One is lower than where they were
Whoa.
pre-outage, and CrowdStrike is substantially higher. And that's what great example, textbook on why quality matters, moats matter, and Sentinel One just proved to me that they don't really have a moat. If they couldn't capitalize on their biggest competitor effing up that bad, that screams to me I don't think you're going to survive this digital economy that we're about to enter, and you're probably going to get acquired from a bigger fish, bigger whale.
Mm. My other yeah, you touched on it. My other question for you was where the 3% that left, where'd they go? Was it Sentinel, Palo Alto? But it sounds
It's
like in like the near term, those benefited, but then it went right back the
well,
other way.
also you have to think about the bigger hype. Microsoft has a great cybersecurity
Mm,
suite as well. So like, same with Google. Google acquired Wiz trying to acquire Wiz. So like these hyperscalers have their own cybersecurity solutions. So those 3% maybe went there. However, again, I'm not going to try to get too technical, but if you're a tech salesman, you know what the cycles are like. If you want to get out of CrowdStrike's system, the only way to get a flip of a switch to someone else, to a different vendor, is Palo Alto. If you want to go to Sentinel One, you have to restart that whole sales cycle that take months.
um,
And that's why when people were saying Sentinel One's going to be a major beneficiary, I'm like, again, you don't know what you're talking about. It's going to take months. But if Palo Alto is the biggest beneficiary, if they were really going to have customers leaving them, because literally it would just take less than a day, flip of a switch, essentially, and bada bing, bada boom. But
yeah.
it didn't even happen. And again, now CrowdStrike, their ability to constantly innovate every year to add more modules because they've proven the ability to organically grow and capitalize on the latest and greatest. Like I think they're gonna be perfectly positioned in the agentic AI world about to enter, and they'll always be know where the puck's going. Essentially, when
Mhm.
I think Sentinel One and is just trying to figure out what arena the puck's at.
Yeah. And these outages, I mean, it's only really they're only exacerbating and it's showing like how much a cybersecurity threat can just completely take down these systems. Last week, Victoria's Secret's US website was down for 4 days because of a cyber like they could not get this thing to get 4 days of online sales. It's a big retailer. It went down Monday, May 26th, um, offline through Wednesday. Thursday, it was still down, and the company was, like, not saying much. Like, I think I'll check. I think it's up now, but, like, that is 4 days of e-commerce sales. Like, that's wild. So, to your point that you make a lot is, like, to the extent these things happen let's back up. Um, like, other e-commerce retailers gotta look at that and be like, "Damn." Like, if they're not beefing up their cybersecurity, it's almost a week of sales lost.
No, I mean, there's a new movie that came out on HBO. I love Jesse Armstrong. If you guys don't know who he is, he created Succession, one of my favorite content creators. There was this movie called Mountainhead where Steve Carell was like the star of it. It was like about tech bros on a mountain, just like broing down with each other. And they're all billionaires, and they caused a global AI crisis. And they're all chilling up there trying to figure out how to capitalize it for themselves. Anyway, either way, that got me thinking like there is going to be some kind of global AI crisis in the future. I really do think it is because we're just ramping up so quickly in this thematic that I feel like the guardrails just aren't in place yet for how quickly we're innovating. And that's a little alarming. And I don't think there's going to be a structure in place before that something bad happens. I don't think it's gonna be as bad as what happened to Mountain Head, but it's gonna be something pretty bad. Either way, security is gonna be so important. It's one of those when the AI tsunami is coming, security is gonna benefit so much from the AI tsunami because there's gonna be so many more products that are gonna get replicated and produced due to AI agents, and that's gonna cause so much data. And what do you have to do with that data? You need to protect it. That's the number one thing for enterprises. And it doesn't matter if you can't have an you can't trust an AI agent to do 70% of the job on security. You can't, because that 30% window can be detrimental for your company. So the whole AI tsunami, is because it's gonna be very easy to create a good enough product. That's the AI tsunami. If I had to do TLDR, everyone's going to create good enough products that will push everyone to the finish line. Security is the one thing, one area you can't be just good enough. You have to be elite. CrowdStrike's proven they are elite. Sentinel-1 is great. I don't think they're elite. Palo Alto is elite, although they're going to have to acquire their way to maintain that status, but they are still elite. So I think that this new age defense bucket I constantly talk about, there's a reason where I put all my chips during this macro pullback towards that bucket, is because it's kind of the combination of a safety blanket where that's the mag is so super safe. And if the market pulls back more, that those names won't pull back as much. So I think
Yeah.
that's why you're seeing Palantir hit an all-time high last week. You saw CrowdStrike hit an all-time high. You saw Rubrik hit an all-time high. Security is where you want to be, and it's only going to pick up steam and momentum. And the TAM for that is violently underrated, because it's not factoring the explosion AI agents we're about to see in the near term.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the cost of doing business now. If you think about a
Mhm.
simple framework to look at it, but if the business is in trouble or you need to free up some cash, what is like the last thing that's going to get cut? They're not going to they're not going to
Yeah.
kill off cybersecurity. I saw an interesting thread on X, which something that rarely happens. Not a lot of threads are interesting. Yours are always interesting, Shy. But
Thank
this
you.
one was interesting because I know we were talking a few weeks ago, days ago, about like this vibe coding thing, and you can use generative AI to basically have a conversation with a tool, and it will build an app for you. But the thing I didn't think about, because I've been playing around with this, is this guy was saying like, I built this, fully functioning app in 3 days. And apparently within 2 weeks, it got hacked like 3 times. And that's where it's like the friction to create and put stuff out there is low, but these applications aren't building the cybersecurity layer. That's also a whole other, there's a wave of new stuff being created. I would love to see the data behind just like new mobile apps and apps being put out there. And like cybersecurity is not part of the vibe coding process currently, to my knowledge. So that I was like, huh, that's interesting because someone can start something very easily. It could catch fire, get very popular with consumers. If you think about something goes viral on TikTok, whatever, everyone's putting in their info, and then like boom, there's no
Mhm.
there's no security layer. So I think that's some and another interesting angle to watch too, where it's not just the big enterprises. It's these little apps can start small and get very big, collect a lot of data, and they're vulnerable.
Yeah, so I think it's natural as well, because like I feel like even when you're like, I don't want to say these like SMBs or these like Joe and Janes who are creating these like new companies on AI, like they're like children, but honestly, in their enterprise eyes, they are very green. So like when you're a 21-year-old or an 17-year-old, and you get your driver's license permit, like do you think about I need to get my driver's insurance. I need to figure out my car insurance. Like no, you think about getting the best car to get from
Yeah.
point A to point B and looking the best.
Yeah.
You could care less about the admin stuff like insurance until you get burned like bad. I think once like these individuals who create these great products get burned, that's going to cement themselves into their brain. Like that moment is going to be living rent free in their heads. Security will just be a top priority, and that's what enterprises know, that because they've gone burnt early stage or whatever reason. These SMBs, maybe they haven't yet, so they don't care as much, but they're going to. That's the thing. Like inevitably, it's like Final Destination. The Grim Reaper will always get you at the end, so you better be prepared. Same
Yeah.
thing with security. You better be prepared, and it's something you can't live without, and it's only going to gain more popularity, and it's always going to be expensive. It's always going to be more by expensive I mean these stocks who have elite moat status will always have a premium valuation, because they're choke holding the whole earth essentially. Like you you need us, and there's not that many of us, so
Yeah.
good luck getting rid of us.
I want to pivot to MongoDB, but real quick to that point, because like we talk about this a lot. Like you're spending hours a week, figuring out okay, CrowdStrike versus Palo Alto. Someone who's like listening to what you're saying and like nodding, cybersecurity ETF. If you're that person, what is that? Not to give like direct advice, but is that like that's a viable option for somebody who maybe doesn't want to pick one winner, but they're like, hey, I agree with Shy. This is going to be a thing.
It is, but it also isn't. So in my opinion, I think cybersecurity is a very crowded field, and that's my issue with these ETFs because first off, I don't know what these ETFs hold. Let's just say I think cyber's ETF is one. Let me see. If it's not, that someone should be
Yeah,
taking that.
someone should get that.
Let me see. Top. Yeah, cyber SIBR is one. Let's see their top holdings that they have. Because the issue with these ETFs is there's always just like it's not really cybersecurity pure. It's
Yeah.
like this one over here. I'm reading right now. Top one is Broadcom.
Yeah.
It's not really cybersecurity. It's a networking play on AI infra. So
Mm,
that's like all right. That's 9%. CrowdStrike's the second biggest, great, but Cisco's third, not really. Palo Alto, yeah, you're right, but the rest is like
yeah.
oh, I guess the rest is like there's Cloudflare in it, there's Zscaler, so both SASEs and Okta, but again, like I don't want Broadcom and Cisco
Right.
exposure
Yeah.
uh in my top four of that. Those two names alone make up 20% of that ETF.
Right.
I don't want that exposure if I want
Yeah.
cybersecurity. So that's my issue with these ETFs. But if I was if you want cybersecurity exposure, but you don't want to pay the premium multiple on like CrowdStrike or Rubrik now because they both are all-time highs, I'd wait for a pullback. There's always a pullback. Just be patient. There's always going to be some 20%, 25% pullback. If they're too, the appetite's too severe, Microsoft and Google have incredible cybersecurities in their suites. And it's not just, you can capitalize on a thematic on those names and you don't have to be purely exposed like you are with CrowdStrike and Rubrik. So, like, I'd go that route because I don't think there's a great cybersecurity ETF right now because it's kind of composed with some bigger legacy players that aren't really cybersecurity.
Yeah, sometimes they throw some things in those thematics to make sure they perform. So it's like I feel like
Yeah.
Microsoft, Google's in like every single one. I'm like, okay, kind of. You did mention Broadcom, so let's skip over to them because they report Thursday the 5th after close. Um, they design and sell chips used in smartphones, data centers, networking, as you mentioned. Uh, Big part of the AI infrastructure story there. They've had pretty good performance over the past 12 months. Shy, looking ahead to Thursday, Broadcom, what are you expecting? What are you watching for?
Yeah, so Broadcom's gonna kill it. It's gonna do really well, but you have to ask yourself like how well is the market expecting
Mm,
Broadcom to do? Because I think that we saw I'm trying to like look up the number I'm blanking on it, but Nvidia had a really, really strong networking revenue beat. I think they came in at 5 billion and estimates were 3.5. I think I mentioned it last time. It's like a 50% beat or close to it on what estimates were. And I think that was the loudest signal to me uh, that networking is where the next bottleneck is or the hotspot is in the AI compute ecosystem. So I think that this is going along my thesis that inference demand is going to absolutely explode because the training data is becoming so cheap. And that's why I think NVIDIA is going to do so well because they're going to be printing money on their CUDA fronts and their NVD link front because of training data become cheaper, that their hardware side, the GPU side, like, yes, it's going to diminish slowly, but the tailwind, I think, and CUDA and NVLink is going to be much higher than the headwind on the hardware side. That's just we'll see what the 1-to-1 is on that, but that's my initial thesis. But for Broadcom, they're they are specifically going to be one of the beneficiaries. Same with Stereo Labs, but Broadcom is if you guys don't know what Broadcom does, I'm trying to think about it in a better way. If and if you think about NVIDIA as being the GPU engine or the hardware, Broadcom is the glue that's
mm,
holding all the hyperscaler AI infrastructure together because they are essentially providing the plumbing behind every single AI workload. So all the customer hyperscaler silicon chips, the high speed networking, Apple uses them. Apple Silicon uses them. Like they are just the invisible glue that a lot of people don't really talk about. And I think in this earnings report, you're seeing how they're positioned inside all the hyperscalers, and networking is no longer optional. And you're seeing them like Nvidia deliver 40% above estimates. Like it's becoming foundational. And the scale that Nvidia is just outlined will require not just a horizontal expansion, in my opinion, it's going to be a vertical and re-engineering of every single pathway in the data center. And Broadcom is already positioned, is embedded in all those redesigns already. So like if they're going to do that process, they have to use Broadcom. There's no other solution. So I think they're gonna do well.
Yeah.
But you gotta ask yourself, like, their stock is doing really well. So like,
Yeah. Is that
like
how much
zoom
is
out.
Yeah, how much is priced into that? Well, you just heard the opening bell, so we're off to the races. I want to go back to another earnings call happening this week of company we've talked about. Not a top performer like the other two we talked about, and that is MongoDB. They're reporting tomorrow, no, 2 days from now, Wednesday, June 4th after close. They're a flexible cloud database for developers. They're down about 20% year to date. Um, I think we talked about them last time they reported, Shy, and you had some thoughts. But what do you think they're going to turn it around for this earnings call? Or are they on a different kind of path?
So this is one of the names of my doghouse. Actually, I think there is a good chance this gets dropped from my portfolio this year.
Oh
You got,
no,
I know, not all of them can be winners,
no,
unfortunately, but
block and delete,
this is.
man.
I mean, this is like one of the newer skill sets I'm trying to iron out is the emotional attachment is no bueno anymore. Like I think MongoDB is perfectly positioned in this like agentic AI world about to enter, where NoSQL database, unstructured data, like it should be kind of a great. It should have a spot in the modern developer tech stack. It's just not showing me the numbers and the fundamentals yet. And Amazon has a great competing product, like a really great one. And I'm just like asking myself, does MongoDB like at a certain point, like I think their tech is great, but when I talk to multiple engineers in this space, they all hate it. It's a universal thing. They
Mhm.
all don't like it. So as a person who knows the tech, but I'm not in boots strapped on the ground, they don't like using their product, and the fundamentals aren't being backed up with any kind of reacceleration from this AI theme. I have to fall that I'm wrong, and
Yeah.
selling it. Right now, it's less than a 2% position for me. So I haven't added in a while.
Okay.
And this is a name where management is just so annoying, where they constantly sandbag their guidance and they
Oh,
have
right.
these
I remember.
monster
Okay.
beats. It's like this ridiculous beats, like, oh, whoa, what? That's an insane beat. Then all of a sudden, the guide lowers, the guidance is so off. It's just awful. And like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I think that's like in this environment, like you can't just like beat and sandbag God anymore, or you're gonna be stuck in this vicious range for years. So right now they're supposed to be growing 13% this year.
Yeah.
The AI theme is in year three. This is not you should not be going to low teens. I get that the consumption model is it's a consumption model, so like, it's tricky because business spending slowing down due to the paralysis of the macro chaos, but like 13% is unexcusable. But this is the cheapest valuation it's been at in since they went public. And you have to ask yourself, all right, if because I'm underwriting them growing 20% this year. That's why I was like, I'm wrong. I think there's gonna be a
Mm,
re-acceleration to 20%. This is pre-tariffs though. So like, I'm being lenient now of like all my underwriting for re-acceleration on Snowflake and Mongo, for example. I'm pushing that to next summer just to do this tariff war. But even then, like their CAGR 16% for the next 4 years, Mongo. So they don't have the margins because they offer freemium, not freemium, but like it's essentially they're offering the product for free because they know people won't leave their ecosystem once they adopt
mhm.
it. But the issue is like they're not getting that many new logos, and they are pivoting their strategy from SMBs and developers to medium-sized companies and enterprises. And that to me is screaming, I don't love that because
Mhm.
Amazon has a much better product than you do.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe the volume can help you in the developer and smaller side, especially in AI agents creating like all the mom and pop shops that we just talk about all the time. But I don't love the medium sized enterprise angle. So like this is a name where like, if they disappoint today, like maybe I drop. But also the issue I have is like, what am I
Oh,
gonna
it could
buy with
happen
that
today.
cash? No,
It
but
could happen.
why? Yeah, it could happen
Oh,
today. But like, what would I buy with that cash though? Like, there's no real
yeah.
good deals anymore out there. It's like,
I
yet
don't know. What's that stock that went up 20,000% or like, did you see this? There's some pharma company. I got to pull it up. I was like,
the
wait,
Chinese biotech company.
I'm like, wait, how? What? Like, I meant to look into that before today's show. But real quick, Shy, like tactical portfolio management question. So it sounds like you're not adding to them because they're in your doghouse. So slowly, like over time, when you're adding to other things, the percentage goes down. At what like when is the strategy just to like leave it and just like stop adding, add to other stuff, and eventually it becomes very small share versus I'm gonna cut my losses. I'm done with these guys. Sell. Like, how do
So
you determine which one to do?
it's tricky. You have to know the company inside and out, so you have to know if the thesis is cracking. What
Mm,
I always I have a I journal a lot. I know a lot, so like I have my initial thesis for each of my holdings. If that thesis is slowly cracking, like trade desk, I thought that thesis was cracking 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. 'Cause that was a major miss, and it was a bad, poorly timing miss because their new AI product rollout was just nobody liked it. And then
yep.
that was also the time where the recessionary environment was just like really on the spotlight, and ad spend is like the first that gets cut in a recessionary environment. I was like, oh God, every other company in that cycle, ad tech company in that cycle, produced strong numbers, but you didn't. That's alarming to me.
Mm,
Luckily, it just showed it was just they didn't have a COO in place, poor poor launch, and they bucked that real quick, and that wasn't thesis cracking. So I actually became more aggressive. I let that dwindle down to 2%. As soon as that earnings report, I added, and boom, 3%. But for MongoDB, the thesis is cracking a bit because like they've shown no signs for me any reacceleration from AI, and everything that's channel checks I'm doing is poor. Fundamentals are poor. That's like showing to me like there's no pro on the stock except for its lowest valuation since it went public, and that's not even that undervalued according to traditional metrics. But for other names, like I've been building up on some like Digital Ocean, for example, Global E. Those are two names that aren't doing the best, but their business is expanding. The moat is expanding. I'm seeing it based on specific metrics, but they're being penalized from the macro environment because they're both kind of capitalized on SMBs, and SMBs are awful right now in this environment. So I'm giving it a leeway, but like it's a lot of back and forth I have in my head
yeah.
on to answer your question of like, is this thesis cracking? Is the moat evaporating? And if it is, I'm gonna let you dwindle down and give you like a 6 month turnaround period. If you don't
Right.
hit it, you're gone.
Time out. Yeah, and it's like the emotions must come into it because, like you said, they sandbag in earnings or whatever, and then you're like, "Oh, I hate these guys. I just want to like get them out of here. I'm sick of seeing that ticker." But maybe that's not the move. So interesting insight there. I want to switch over to some important Tesla news. Specifically, who gave Elon Musk that epic shiner? So this was a big story over the weekend. So first of all, the initial big story was he's out, he's done, he's great. Going back to Tesla, he said he was going to do that. He had like one final press conference in the Oval Office. And then everyone's like, what's up with his face? He has giant black eye. You can pull a picture up. He then blamed his 5-year-old son. So like I'm like, I watch a lot of like SVU and stuff. So I'm like Googling this. So the average 5-year-old weighs 40 pounds. He calls this child Little X. So I'm gonna guess he's runtier for a 5-year-old. So call it 36 pounds. I don't I don't know if a 36-pound child could do that, unless he's like a prodigal future UFC fighter, freak athlete, which the footage I've seen would say no. Uh, so, 3.5 foot tall kid did this. I don't know. It was weird. But I'm looking and it's like, it's he set this baseline of just erratic behavior that it doesn't like any other public company CEO shows up at the White House with a black eye. I feel like there's an impact on the stock. him, it's like, yeah, yeah, he probably fell or who knows. Um, I don't know, Shy, if you have any theories about this, but I was like fixated on it because I'm just like, this is weird.
I mean, it's weird, first off, for sure. I think I don't think it was Lil X. I think it would be a
Somebody
yeah,
bigger.
bigger, a little
Maybe
bigger,
someone who lists themselves as 6'2",
or maybe it's
260.
something shame or it could just be something shameful, like he actually did something like he was really embarrassed about and doesn't want to admit. Like
Been
maybe
there.
that, yeah, been there. Maybe he actually just uh slipped in the shower. He was playing video games too hard, and the controller hit his eye when he was like upset. I don't know. Like it could be something like that. I just don't think it was low X, but I could be wrong. It's just that the impact has to be severe for that, and also the placement of it is a bit wider.
That was a very
Yeah.
targeted or like, yeah, I guess targeted or just like if it was a random act, like crazy. Like he tripped over a couch and hit his head. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I'm like looking, the price didn't go anywhere. But then I looked up, we pulled up this Google Trends chart and like it's funny because over the past several months, Elon's been making like big announcements like I'm Doge and I'm leaving and I'm staying. And like it's like there was like not a lot of buzz about him for a while. And then it's like he shows up with a black eye and he's like, I am so back. So all eyes are on him, I guess. It's funny because I asked Grok to ballpark the likelihood that it was Little X based on all of these factors. Um, and it ballparked at like a 30% chance it was Little X. Um, so a lot of skepticism
Ugh.
there. I don't know. We'll see. But he's going back to Tesla. And of course, all of the there's been a lot of like Waymo Tesla street fighting going on. I don't know if you've seen this on X or the Waymo people and the Tesla people are kind of fighting. And I think Shai, I know you think Tesla's gonna win out in that battle. But are you seeing this? There's a lot of like back and forth of like who's better, and Waymo's like, well, which one of them can you actually get a ride in right now? Oh, and like this is how people are spending their weekends. But yeah, looking at the Waymo Tesla breakdown of the autonomous vehicles, why do you think Tesla is better positioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go into this like autonomy war, it's just called that. I think it's really important to remember the smartphone war that we had with BlackBerry and the iPhone. I think a lot of people were scuffing at what Apple was doing with their iPhone, like no buttons. There's no way that's like gonna be as successful as you think. Like I can't imagine just typing something on the screen. Like I need to control the buttons and click it, etc. We saw how that turned out. So I think the scalability of what Elon's trying to solve on autonomy for Tesla is drastically different than Waymo, and it's drastically higher. It's a different sandbox. It's like think about like Waymo's is operating in literally the sandbox of a park. Tesla is trying to control the whole park, not just the little sandbox. And the pricing is the major factor where is actually reasonable. Those cars, like it's a very reasonable cost if you want full autonomy driving. For the Waymos, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not ever going to scale to be operationally um, reliable for consumers. Like it's going to be primarily for B2B, the Ubers, Lyfts, etc. Where Tesla is literally trying to solve it for consumers. Like
Mm,
literally people, and that's way more scalable than just enterprises for B2B. B2C is way more scalable than B2B. And if they solve it, wow, because the neural network that they're going to have powered behind that, if it scales, is going to be unmatched. Like nobody's going to match that data set they're going to have on their AI to continue to learn and grow. So I think it's really like the Waymo people are really absolutely right. Like I've gone on Waymos before in LA. It's very common here. And I think that you're right. Yes, they're clearly the leader right now, but there's always going to be that grim reaper in your head
mhm.
of if Elon hits 100% again and solves this, like,
Yeah,
uh, oh my god,
yeah.
this is not going to be great. But it's a big risk. Either way, if Tesla does fail at autonomy, I do think Google catches a major bid, like a significant bid, because Waymo would be the de facto. It's
Mhm.
just I don't know. We got the date June 12th. I think it's not going to be what people envisioned it to be. It's going to be pretty micro. It's not going to be as Austin scalable as people think it is. But yeah, I think that there's more than enough room for both to succeed in. I think that if I had to put my hat on, Tesla would probably win 60 to 70% of the market, and Waymo win the rest, and through partnerships with Lyft and Uber. But the pricing is going to be more expensive
Mhm.
if you use a Waymo than a Tesla. And I think pricing will always win in consumables, and rides
Yep.
are a consumable at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you caught this side too, also, unrelated to Tesla, but there's a new big old report from Mary Meeker that just dropped on AI trends. And if you guys don't follow, Mary Meeker is like an internet futurist who every few years comes up with these like monster research reports. But there's so many I mean, it's like 100 pages long. There's so many fascinating charts in there, but one of them I want to show you guys is the time it took for GPT to hit 360 billion annual searches versus Google. So it took GPT 2 years to get there, and it took Google 11. So, like, we keep talking about how fast things are changing. This is just one of the data points. Like, there's a lot of people on X and other places who are, like, recapping some of these charts. We can probably find some other interesting ones. But just the speed of all this, and it goes back to what we were talking about last week with Michael. He's like, he's been doing this for decades. And he's like, this is fast. This is moving very, very fast. So Shy, I don't know if you caught this report. This is like you could spend hours in this. I'm trying to see if there's any other interesting things that came out of just like the rate of adoption though is insane. Oh, here's an interesting one. Look at this one. This is mentions of AI in corporate earnings reports. I mean, again, not shocking, but seeing it visually, um, it's just funny how quickly this all happened, and how embedded it is in everything we're doing. So you guys should check that out if you're into AI. We'll dive in. I'll dive in deeper in my all my spare free time. But really interesting, just the acceleration there. And like you said, Shy, it impacts things like cloud, storage, networking, infra, like all these other pieces. Like when you see these consumer habits changing, it has a knock-on impact on all these other things.
I mean, it's replacing intelligence. And where's intelligence? And every single thing that everyone does in the world is correlated with intelligence. Even if you think the dumbest person in the world is doing something, that's subjective. There might be some trickle of intelligence in what that person's doing. You just don't know yet.
Hmm.
That's why it's so disruptive, because everything else, 3D printing, not intelligence. Cloud, not intelligence. Internet.com bubble, it was not intelligence. These are all, in a way, products. AI isn't a product, it's intelligence. And that's why it's so scary about it, because it's more of a characteristic than a product. And characteristics can be implemented everywhere all at
Hmm.
once. So I think I'm not surprised it's scaling as quickly as it is. I'm telling you, like when the chat GPT moment for me, it was over 2 years ago. I redid everything in my life to try to work my way towards leading that future world about to enter, or being part of it and not being displaced. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is a game changer. This is totally different. It's going to be substantial in everyone's lives. And back then, uh, 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 I was not ridiculed, but like everyone thought I was just there's this phrase that the youngsters say,
Nerd.
cloud chase. No, cloud.
Oh,
I was just
cloud.
cloud chasing. I was cloud chasing on like AI,
Yeah.
AI, and I was
But
just
a
like,
lot of
no.
people were. All like the NFT people were like, "Oh shit, that didn't work out. We're AI now." But like you're right. Like it is a feature. And like I've even been thinking it's almost going to be like a utility cost. I think the UAE said they're going to pay for everyone's AI usage, but over the past few months, like it started with okay, I just like ramped up GPT and then I got Claude. I now pay for a separate tool that's $19 a month that optimizes my prompts. So I write the prompt how I want to write it. I put it in this separate tool. It makes it an amazing prompt. And then I put it back over into one of the other. Like I feel like we're all going to be paying hundreds of dollars a month
Well,
between all these things.
also, we're so early. I can't tell you guys how much in my social circles that people don't use AI at all.
Mm-mm.
I'm just talking about my demo, which is early 30s, mid 30s. I can't
Yeah.
imagine the boomers. Like boomers probably just like think it's a tool, fun tool. It's a game almost. They probably think it's a game. That's the biggest disconnect where people think it's just playing a game. Like, oh, it's just curiosity sake rather than no, like this will replace everything you do. Learn how to use it. It's oxygen. It's
Mhm.
oxygen for the new world we're about to enter. It's not just a um Xbox controller. It's literally you need it to function in the world. And that moment hasn't happened for the majority of the world. So that's why we're so early. Just like how Tom Lee said this morning when I was watching his interview, he thinks Bitcoin's going to rise substantially because like 90+% of Bitcoin's been mined already, but 90+% of the world still doesn't believe in Bitcoin. So there's a supply and
Yeah.
demand issue, which makes sense. It totally makes sense. That's the whole spiel about crypto is like there's not that many out there you can get your hands on Bitcoin, but the TAM is the world and people don't believe in it yet. Kind of the same thing with AI, where
Mm.
not that many people enterprises believe in it because there's always the first movers. Certain consumers can believe in it, but the vast majority they do not, and they're actually more scared of it. And when people are fearful of something, they put it on a shelf and
Yeah.
forget about it. And that's what's kind of happening right now a little until the earthquake comes and you feel that shelf is shaking and might fall on you. Now you have to go grab that thing off the shelf and learn how to use it in life. But by then, it's gonna be too late. That's what I'm telling everyone.
Yeah.
Like, learn right now when you have a chance, because
Seriously.
you're not gonna have that chance in the future.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's almost like more of a mindset than a demo. Like my dad is very savvy. Like I put him on my GPT and like within 2 days he's like, "Oh, I'm using Gemini now. I like it better for these reasons." And like granted, he used to be like an IT consultant at like a
Oh,
management consultant. So like but
he
still, he's
knows.
not,
Yeah.
but my friends that don't use it, it's almost like you said, it's a fear or like a moral stance. It's like, "Oh, I don't believe in it." And it's like I had a friend tell me a few months ago, she's like, "There's no moral victories. Like, you're only hurting yourself." And like when things are coming, they're coming, and it's almost like, are you gonna be pessimistic and scared, or are you gonna just lean in and say, "This is coming. I better, I may as well." And that's not saying there won't be bad components of this. Like you've been talking about that. We've been talking about that a lot. There's a lot of scary things that probably will happen, but you've put your head in the sand, that does you no good. It reminds me of like this I forgot the philosopher's name. We studied him in college, and his whole spiel, which was genius, was like, "Look, I don't know if there's a God, but I'm just gonna believe in one anyway, because if there is one, I wanna believe in God for that outcome." And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, like, not to get, like, religious, this is not a religious conversation, but it's kind of the same thing where it's like, it's gonna happen anyway, might as well learn. And, like, things could go bad, it could be the end of society, but, like, it won't matter at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you see the AI tsunami coming, but you're just gonna hide underneath your bed in the ship, and like I'm gonna be safe because I don't
Yeah.
see it anymore. I'm in this like little room under a bed. That's not how the world works, unfortunately. It really isn't, and I don't love the way the society is trending towards. I really don't. I'm born 1993, but I really would love to be in the 90s as
Mm.
like a 30
Yeah.
year old. Like that's kind of would be my glory years. I'm not. I'm very much analog. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm also not blind. Like this is how the world's going heading towards, and I also think that it's a good mental practice to not be like my biggest fear is heights. I think a lot of people's biggest fear is heights. What did I do when I was in when I graduated college? I went skydiving in Dubai because
Oh
I told
god.
myself if I conquered my biggest fear, I won't be fearful in this new like chapter I'm starting in my life post college graduation. Because I was scared of I was like I excelled in school. I was a
Yeah.
college athlete. I was always told what to do, and I respected it. And I listened. And I worked hard, and it was very binary. Post
Yeah.
college, it's not that way at all. There's a lot of it's fluid. It's a spectrum. And I was just like scared because I had guardrails my whole life. And now as you turn 23, those guardrails are no longer and you could spiral. So I was like the way that for me was just conquer my number one fear, go skydive in Dubai. I blacked out almost and
I
I
was
was
gonna
like
say,
the
how
worst
was did you enjoy any of it?
I didn't enjoy any of it, and I will say nobody told me that the heaviest person goes first, and I'm 190, so like I was the heaviest person there, and I went first, and I still remember like opening the door and like all right, you're up first, and I was just like, nobody
Was
tells you you
somebody
can't.
with you?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Okay,
cannot
okay,
do it alone. My
okay.
mom was supposed to go with me, and she backed out
Oh,
last second because she
I
was too scared.
I
Like
can't. I
on
couldn't.
the ramp, like as we're about to go on the plane, she's like, "I can't do it," and I had to go up there with a
Bye,
couple
son.
strangers. Yeah, my son.
See you on the other side. Save yourself. Honestly, yeah, I always wonder about that because like that scares the crap out of me too. And I'm like, I don't think any part of that going up doesn't sound fun. Being outside of the plane doesn't sound fun. Coming down doesn't sound fun. Like nowhere in this process is there fun. Like,
Yeah,
would you
there's
do it again?
never. No, it was
Oh,
mainly as a psychological checklist
yeah.
to
It's aggressive.
massage my mentality going forward a bit. It worked. It definitely did because now whenever I get fearful, like, I always remember that feeling. It's one of those like, it's cool because it's one of those moments will be cemented in your memory forever, and
Yeah.
it's rare to know preliminary of when those moments are going to be. I knew
Yes.
skydiving was going to be that moment. I was like, let me embrace it. Let me do it. Um, and yeah, it was shaky, but I'm happy I did it. And who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be an AI investor if I didn't do that because I'd be too scared of it. Maybe you just don't know.
Yes, it's true, like, in life, sometimes you gotta, like, move your own baseline. Like, I've never jumped
Yeah.
out of a plane, but, like, I used to run a lot of marathons, and the last one I did, it was, like, my 15th marathon, I was in Japan, I got hypothermia, and it was, like,
Whoa.
the worst. Like, I was, like I could barely walk, I was freezing cold, I lost my friends, I had no money, didn't know where my hotel was. I'm, like, on the subway, didn't speak the and I was like, "Nothing will ever be worse than this right now." Like, this is so now if it's, like, even a little chilly out, I'm just like, "Whatever." Like, I was, like, in the fetal position in a Tokyo subway, like, I can take anything. But if you move that guardrail for yourself, and I think it's the same is true with what's going on in investing with all the volatility, it's like, we're just, like, we lived through April was like the sky was falling, and now we're like, "Oh, April, May was great, we're back." And then it's like, "Oh, June might be bad." And, you just change the baseline and you get used to more, dynamism in your life.
No, I mean, first off, that's incredible you ran a marathon in Japan. Like, I didn't
It
know
was
that.
so fun.
That's a very cool feature. But yeah, you're right.
Yes.
The guardrails. I mean, if you want to put your investing goggles on, a lot of people's guardrails were 2022. That bubble bursting, it was a
Yeah.
substantial one. I remember a time when money was that free and evaluations that extended, where
Yeah.
everything was down more than 50%, uh, except for the big tech. I'm saying growth investing. Most were down 70 to 80%, all within a year or so. There's April pullback. That was nothing compared to the whole year we experienced. Again, I always make the joke, but like my chest was not this hairy before that pullback. Like that made me grow a lot of hair on my chest, and I have some gray hairs probably over here too because of that as well. But yeah, we went through a lot of psychology this episode, which I'm glad. But
Yeah, we
it's
did.
it's really
No,
important to
we
like.
talk things out. We gotta talk things out sometimes. Also, like, I feel like we're setting up for the week. So there's
True.
things coming, and, definitely wanna check back on CrowdStrike, tomorrow, that'll be after the bell. Campbell's reported, not one we really cover a lot here, but one interesting thing they reported was that it's the highest rate of people cooking at home since 2020, which was, of course, COVID. So that's a little signal, for you guys. The Dow is down 300 points today, so something to watch. We'll see if that can rally back. But Shy, parting words of wisdom or thoughts as we jump out of the plane into this trading week.
uh I'd honestly I'm looking at making a trade of shorting the VIX. I think the
Ooh.
VIX is pretty elevated right now. It's roughly at 20, I think. Last time I checked for the market being at all-time high. I really don't think much is going to happen next like month or two. Like yes, the foundation is still shaky from East US versus China, but look at the market like over the weekend there was some like back and forth from US and China of like you're negging on our deal. You're negging on our deal, but back and forth pointing the market's essentially flat. So I think it's
Yeah.
digesting bad news and it's digesting that this is theater. And I think this is going to be theater for a lot longer than people anticipate. And eventually it's going to work itself out like it usually does on some adjusted rates. I still think that we're never going to go to pre-tariff rates again. It's going to be more 10%, maybe 15. And I think that would do just fine because we are deleveraging ourselves from the east pretty quickly. So, I think that's gonna be a little probably a boring summer if I'd actually put it. Um, uh, but
We
yeah,
need more people to get black eyes or something. We need guys. We have to fill an hour every day. Someone's got to get punched. I don't know. We'll figure it. Something will happen. There's always something on the side of all this. But I think you're right. Like the summer's a chill time, so we'll make sure to keep you guys entertained. And we will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern to cover everything that unfolds in the next 24 hours. Shy, I hope you have an awesome Monday over there.
thank you. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye.